Oh, that's funky, isn't it? Isn't that funky? That's No Time for Dreaming from Charles Bradley. Now that song sounds like an old 60s soul tune. It actually isn't. Soul singer Charles Bradley spent decades in relative obscurity as a James Brown impersonator. You get a sense of that there. And the road he traveled wasn't just long, it was exceptionally hard. But then, recently, at the age of 62, he released his debut album and became an overnight sensation, 40 years in the making. Bradley's life is the subject of a new documentary, Charles Bradley, Soul of America, and we're going to speak to Bradley right now and filmmaker Poull Brien about this inspiring life's journey. The film screens Thursday, the 15th, the day after tomorrow, at the Landmark Century Cinema in Chicago. But with us, we have Mr. Bradley and Poull Brien. Gentlemen, are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
Charles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent.
Buddy.
Power.
Sounds like a reunion. When was the last time you guys saw each other?
We saw each other in New York. We had a screening at Lincoln Center on July 26th, and Charles came down and did the Q&A with us, and it was just a beautiful night. It was amazing.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I got to tell you, I first heard your music, Charles, on Little Steven's Underground on satellite, maybe about 6 months ago, and I had to I pulled over the car to scribble down the name and everything so I can look it up when I got home, and was pleasantly surprised that this wasn't a missing soul classic from the 60s. I'm a big fan that I missed, but you're making music right now, so I'm glad to have you here. Tell us about what's happening right now. Now you're in your 60s, and you are now a hot thing. What does that feel like?
64 years old.
64.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm in right now. But it's just wow. I just came from Canada, on tour in Canada, and it was amazing. It's like special now. All through Canada, I will say, Montreal, it was like really tear-dropping. It was just one of those things that the people just pulled their heart at me. And God, I just opened my heart back at them. It was just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
It just like, at the festival, I felt like just like a big family. And we just like, I went in the kitchen and just started open up oysters for them. We were eating oysters, and the crowd was coming there. And it was just like a big family thing. And boy, we all just, I will never forget that. That is so beautiful.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Well, let's go back a bit. Let's go back a bit. Now, you know, obviously, as we've discussed earlier, you're kind of a late bloomer as it comes to this overnight sensation that's come a little bit later. Tell us what your early life was like, because I understand, and the film goes into this, and we're going to talk about that. That your early life, you had some obstacles, some struggles to go over.
Yes, and I can say one thing, like get a little brief look at you see, like in my documentary, certain parts of that I still do not want to see, because it's still a little more painful that I had to deal with. And every time I started watching that part, I just want to get up and walk away, because I know I get deeply emotionally into that, because there's a lot of things that has happened with my mother and my uncle. That's my mother's brother. And there's some deep things in that when I saw some of the things that my uncle said and my brother said. And, you know, those are the two last deep ancestors of mine. Like my uncle, he is 90, my mother's 89 years old. And some things in there is really kind of painful, but it was true. And, you know, when it's true, sometimes it deeply hurts.
It does. It does. Now, Poull, tell us about how you chose Charles as a subject, and tell us about the documentary itself and the message that's there.
Sure.
Or even before that, I should ask, how did you first become aware of Charles, and then tell us about the road from that meeting to the documentary?
So in the summer of 2010, I was out in Colorado, and I heard a bunch of neo-soul songs. I heard some Sharon Jones. I heard some Aloe Black. I heard some Black Joe Lewis. And then I heard Charles Bradley. And the guy that played me all this stuff was ultimately to become the producer on the documentary, the EP and producer, Alex Bruff. Great guy, great music taste. And he played me all this stuff. And the song that stuck out to me out of all those by far was The World. by Charles.
Mm-hmm. Why was that? Why was that?
This was the summer of 2010.
I mean,
back at that point, the only way you could hear the world, was either on 45, or if you went on YouTube, you could find some soul DJs who had taken like a video of the 45 spinning around on the record player, and just uploaded that to YouTube. But that was the only place that you could hear Charles's music and that song. And so it just blew me away. It brought me back to, I used to be a DJ, and it brought me back to those days and all the soul classics that I loved. And so I reached out that night to Dunham Records, to Homer, which is Charles's drummer, and or used to be the drummer. Now Charles is a whole different band that he tours with. But Homer and Tommy, I reached out to those guys, Tom Brennick, and told them I wanted to direct a music video for Charles. And they, and there was a lot of fortuitous moments. They said, I emailed these guys. These guys are, they're artist entrepreneurs, so more on the artist side than entrepreneur. And so they told me that was the lucky day, because they don't check that email account very often. And it just happened that mine landed right on the top that day when they, opened up the email, and it was all just perfect timing. It brought us all together. Fast forward a few months, we're in Brooklyn, and some of the, we kind of were in Charles's neighborhood. We wanted to shoot in and around where he was living and where he'd been spending all his time. And, it's a really sad area, and there's a lot of poverty and there's a lot of violence, but we really wanted to be true to where Charles came from, and shot this music video, had this amazing experience with Charles. I mean, Charles, you remember when we were on the train, when we were on the subway at one point, and Charles was lip syncing to the music, and I was like, no, Charles, you gotta actually sing this, man. I want to see the emotion. I want to see the pain. Charles, you remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, how do we? Let me jump in. How do you get from the music video to the full blown documentary?
Well, sure. So after we'd wrapped the music video, we're sitting there in Dunham Records, and me and Alex were talking to Charles, and Charles was telling us about all these crazy things he'd been through and this crazy life that he'd had. We didn't know anything about Charles up until that day, other than where he'd lived and other than the song. And so as he's telling us all this stuff and about the album that he has coming out that January, Alex was like, we should do just a little short documentary on this guy. You should direct it, and I'll fund it. And it kind of started there. It was just really a small thing. We started shooting with Charles, and immediately, after 7 days of shooting or something like that, or maybe it was 12 days, but it was a short period of time that we shot. And we had 40 minutes of amazing footage, just some incredible stuff. And at that point, we just knew that we had to continue on and make it into a feature. And then we recorded Charles all the way up through the album release. And there's just some.
And Charles, how did it feel? How did it feel to have your life the subject of a documentary?
With Power, it came with a friend. We started being friends. It's just Power had some kind of ways of bringing the truth out. You're open to the truth to him, because I was wondering why he was so straight hard on me, and he kept going. I said, this guy must be real, but he just played on my head. But he kept doing the thing that Charles did it again, do it again. Oh man, I like that. That's awesome. What is this guy? And then we just got into your spirits, and we started talking, and that's when the truth came open. Then Power just wanted to do more and more and more and more and more. I said, oh my God, because it wasn't planned to do, but so much minutes that he wanted to do. I mean, the documentary goes to the album, but as we got to know one another, and we got into really talking, and we just really wanted to just open up, and boy, before I know it, we just kept going on and on and on.
Well, speaking of that truth, we're going to hear a little bit of it. We're going to hear a clip from the film, and then when we come out, Charles, I want to talk to you about it. And I also want to talk to you about when we play the clip, what was it like making ends meet as a James Brown impersonator? But before we get to that, let's play a bit of the film.
This is the house my brother was killed in. That's why I don't like to come in this block no more.
He came downstairs. He saw me crying.
Mama smiled. I said, just go next door. Charles, your brother's dead. He said, no, Mama, can't be. I said, yes, he is. I looked out the window and I saw all these policemen and the fire trucks, ambulance outside. So I came outside and I said, I got to go to see this myself. I saw this thing says morgue. I just came out to go to my brother's house and the detective wouldn't let me in there. But I told him that's my brother and you cannot stop me. So I pushed my way in. But I wish to God that I never would have did it. And they had the boy in the back of the car. I said, give me your gun, Mr. Police. I said, I blow his damn brains out right through him. So, yeah. He said, I can't do that. I said, good thing you can't give, because I'll put every damn bullet in his head.
That's powerful stuff, Charles. That's you talking about the death, the murder of your brother, and the woman's voice to be heard is your mother, also talking as well. These are the kind of things of the documentary that are obviously, and Powell will talk about this as well, it's obviously painful to have to live and relive.
It's like you bring the picture of life in my head. It's just like every time I hear that. The picture, the part that hurt, I wish I would have that detected when he told me not to go into that room. I wish I had listened to him. Because when I went in there, when I saw the way they shot my brother, they shot him with a hollow point bullet, and his brains had, oh God, had bust open, and God, his memories. That's a memory that will never leave my brains. No.
And Powell, how was it having to capture that story on film?
I mean, it was pretty rough. How do you prepare yourself for bringing somebody into that experience, and especially somebody like Charles, who's just, trying so hard at the time. I mean, he hadn't had any success at that time, and here's a guy who's had all this strife against him in life, and then I got to bring him into this scene where he's going to revisit one of the most painful moments of his entire life, and to Charles's credit, though, I'd say that he embraced it, and he wanted to go there, and he wanted to help get through those moments and to show people what he'd been through. And I think actually one of the most beautiful things about Charles is there's a lot of people that have been through a lot of things in life, but Charles, after having gone through them all, hasn't been embittered by them. And he was, when we met him, he was just as positive. I mean, the most positive person I could ever imagine, and the most loving person. I mean, after his mom left him as a child, as a baby, actually, and after being homeless for many years and all the things he went through, then, he still comes back and takes care of his mom when she's sick in her old age and takes care of the house and his family. And, I mean, I think that was a huge gift to me and obviously to the world, because every time Charles plays, that's what I think, just as much as people go for the music, they go for that, to see somebody that's got that much love in their heart. It's just really an inspiring and amazing thing.
Well, we're going to wrap in a few seconds, but Charles, I want to ask you, how does this pain, it affects, it comes across in your music, but not in a sad way, but it seems to give your music and your voice a power. Talk about if there's a relationship between what you've gone through and what you sing and how you sing.
I would say meeting people like Poull, like Poull Brien, because Tom is one who got me into the music the way I want to be at. These guys believed in me and opened up their heart and helped me give the love and the hurt and the pain that I've been through to the world. Nobody had never want to accept me before. They just did a number one little kid, black boy, just a number trying to find these guys look up to me. They came to me and opened their heart and did something for me that gave me a voice to let me express myself to the world, what I was going through. And those two guys I will always be indebted to. Indebted, I thank them to help me to open up, to give my hurt, my pain to the world, and let the world know that there's good people down on the bottom, but all we want is a chance in life.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that'll do us for now. The documentary Charles Bradley, The Soul of America, screens here in Chicago Thursday, August 15th at Landmark Century Cinema in Chicago. Powell and Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.